My brothers and sisters, in my da'wah, I've come across many people who, when they think of akhirah, when they think of hellfire and they think of Jannah, they always tend to say to me that, man, you know what? Let me just enter Jannah and wallahi, I'll be happy. Have you heard this? Do you guys say this here as well? Some people, they say, you know, because Jannah is not one level, yeah? Jannah is many levels. So many of us, when we think about paradise and we think about Jannah, many of us, we tend to say to each other what? That, ya akhi, wallahi, let me just enter paradise and I'll be happy and I'll be content. Wallahi, I'm here to tell you that that's not the truth. Because in this dunya, we're never content with what we have. In this world, you're never happy with the car that you drive. You're never happy with the phone that you're holding. You're never happy with the house that you live in. In this world, you're never content with anything that you have. And you always wish that you had better, or you wish that you had more. But when it comes to our deen, and when it comes to our akhirah, people turn around and tell me, brother, let me just enter Jannah and I'll be happy. You know, my brothers and sisters, I want to share two stories with you from the Sahaba, your fathers. Look at their understanding of Jannah and look at our understanding of Jannah. I want you to leave this hadith with me, please. One of the companions, his name was Rabi'a bin Ka'b al-Aslami. And this companion was a very young companion. And this companion, he belonged to the people of Ahl al-Sufa. For those of you who don't know who Ahl al-Sufa is, in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there was a section in the back that belonged to the people called Ahl al-Sufa. Ahl al-Sufa were the people that had literally no money. Today you and I, we say, brother, you know what? Well, I'm doing it tough, man. I'm doing it hajar. But really, what you and I mean, as in I'm doing it tough, means I'm not driving an AMG, I'm driving my dad's Toyota Camry, you know? But for these people, wallahi, they were really doing it tough. Imagine you lived in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and you were that poor, you didn't have enough money to buy clothes to cover your awrah. Imagine you prayed in the masjid of Rasulullah and your awrah was showing. So when I tell you that these people were really doing it tough, they were really doing it tough. So this young companion, Rabi'a bin Ka'b al-Aslami, he was one of the servants of the Prophet of Allah. And please, I want you to imagine that you're living there. Forget about the lights. I want you to imagine you're living in Medina. You're living in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're in his masjid. And you are the servant of Rasulullah. And because you believe in Iman, because you have Tawheed and you believe in Allah, you have reached such a state, you don't even have enough money to feed yourself. So this young companion, he was one of the servants of the Prophet of Allah. Now I want you to imagine you're him. Imagine you had the honor of serving the Prophet of Allah. So the Prophet of Allah, he used to come out of his house for the tahajjud prayer. And this young Sahabi, Rabi'a bin Ka'b al-Aslami, he used to bring the bowl of water for the Prophet of Allah so he can make wudu. So the Prophet of Allah comes out, Rabi'a says, this is authentic hadith, sahih hadith. Rabi'a says the Prophet of Allah, so he goes to prepare the bowl of water for the Prophet of Allah to make wudu. Then he comes to the Prophet of Allah and he gives him the bowl. So the Prophet of Allah, looking at Rabi'a, seeing how poor he is, seeing his condition, you know, I assume that he felt sorry for him. So he says to him, Rabi'a, ask me, man. Rabia, make a wish. Who's asking? The Prophet of Allah. The one who, if he raises his hands, wallahi, Allah will allow the heavens to rain gold if he asked for it. And this young Sahabi now, imagine what an opportunity. I want you to imagine, you know, some of us, maybe because the Prophet of Allah is a far stretch. I want you to imagine Bill Gates. You went to visit Bill Gates, you know, and you're sitting in his room, you're having a good conversation with Bill Gates, and you know how much money he has. So he turns around and, you know, he knows where you live, he knows your circumstances. So he says to you, brother, sister, you know what? Open checkbook. Ask me, what do you want? So this young Sahabi, Prophet of Allah is asking, he says, "O Prophet of Allah, I want your companionship in Jannah." For you and I, we say, brother, I'm happy to just enter paradise. Look how these people thought, man. He says, "O Prophet of Allah, I want your suhbah, I want your friendship in Jannah." So the Prophet of Allah, he asks him again, almost as if to indicate that, Rabia, I'm not talking about akhirah. I'm talking about here, now. What do you want? You want a wife? You want a house? You want a... Tell me, what do you want? Make a wish. So he looks at the Prophet of Allah, he says, "O Prophet of Allah, that's all I want." He says, "That's all I want, O Prophet of Allah. The only thing I wish for, the only thing that I desire, the only thing I want from this world is your companionship in Jannah." So the Prophet of Allah, he says, "O Rabia, you've asked for something massive. Rabia, you need to help me. You need to assist me in your request in making a lot of sujood."